They laughed when I fell, but they froze when they saw who caught me. Funny thing about falling, it never happens when you're ready for it. I wasn't ready that day, and I sure as hell wasn't ready for what came after. I was 47, proud, stubborn, and tired of pretending I was fine. That day, in front of everyone, at church of all places, my knees gave out. One second I was singing in the choir, the next I was on the floor, face down, feeling the cold tiles under my cheek. I heard laughter first, quick, sharp, nervous laughter, and then silence. Because when I opened my eyes, I saw who was holding me, my ex-husband, Marcus. We hadn't spoken in 10 years, not since he left me for another woman, took half the furniture, and left a note that said, "You'll be better off without me." I wasn't better off. For a long time, I just survived, not lived, just breathed and moved like some kind of ghost. But when Marcus lifted me that day, when our eyes met again after all those years, I swear time stopped. There was shame, yes, but also something else. Recognition, a strange, quiet mercy I didn't think I deserved. People whispered as he carried me outside, his arms trembling but firm. And me, I just stared at the ceiling, fighting tears, realizing how far I had fallen, not just physically, but in life. That day wasn't about fainting. It was about being caught by the very person who once let me fall. And maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of something I never thought I'd feel again: forgiveness. You ever notice how time moves slower when you're lonely? Those 10 years after Marcus left felt like one long gray afternoon. I worked 2 jobs, smiled at the right people, laughed at the right jokes, and came home to silence. The kind of silence that hums in your bones. I told everyone I was doing fine, but the truth is, I forgot what fine even felt like. Some nights, I'd sit by the window with a cup of tea, watching cars pass under the streetlight. I used to wonder if Marcus ever thought of me when he drove by this side of town. And every time that thought came, I'd push it away, hard, because if I let myself miss him, I'd have to admit I still loved him. I tried church, I tried therapy, I even tried online dating. Lord, what a mess that was. Men with smiles too wide, lies too easy, and hearts already somewhere else. So I stopped trying to be loved. I started focusing on surviving, paying bills, keeping my job, staying strong. Strong became my armor and my prison. There was this one night, though, the night before my 50th birthday. I looked at myself in the mirror and said out loud, "Who are you now?" The woman staring back didn't answer. She just looked tired, tired of holding herself together. That's when I realized strength without peace is just another kind of weakness. And maybe that's what broke me before I ever hit the ground. I woke up on my own couch, a soft blanket over me, sunlight crawling across the floor. And there he was, Marcus, sitting right there, holding a glass of water like it was something sacred. For a second, I thought I was dreaming, but then I smelled his cologne, the same one I used to hate. That made it real. He said, "You fainted at church." I nodded. My voice came out small. Guess the Lord wanted me to take a seat. He almost smiled, and for a heartbeat, it felt like old times, before everything broke. I wanted to tell him to leave, to get out and take his memories with him. But instead, I said, "Thank you." He looked at me, not like a man who won, but like a man who finally saw the damage he caused. "You don't owe me anything," he whispered. And I said, "Maybe I do. Maybe I owe you forgiveness. Just not today." He stood up slowly, his hands shaking a little. "I didn't come back to fix the past," he said. "I came to see if you survived it." That line cut through me like glass because it was the first honest thing he'd said in years. Before he left, he turned at the door. "You still sing?" he asked. I said, "Not like I used to." He smiled, soft and sad. "Maybe you should start again." And when the door closed behind him, I cried, not because I missed him, but because for the first time in years, I felt something other than anger. I felt alive. People always ask, when did it start to fall apart? Truth is, you never notice the crack until the whole thing gives way. Marcus and I met in the summer of '89. Hot days, cheap ice cream, and music pouring out of car windows. He was loud, charming, the kind of man who could make a whole room laugh just by walking in. And me, I was quiet, careful, the type who never let anyone too close. He called me sunshine, said my smile made his mornings worth something. I didn't believe him at first, but then he kept showing up. At the diner, at choir practice, at the bus stop, always with that same crooked grin. Eventually, I gave in. He made me feel seen, like the world had color again. We married in a small church with broken air conditioning and a choir that sang too loud. We didn't have much: a one-bedroom apartment, secondhand furniture, and a dream that love was enough. For a while, it was. We'd dance in the kitchen, burn dinner, laugh till we couldn't breathe. Those were the best years, the kind that make you forget pain even exists. But love doesn't die in one night. It fades, slowly, quietly, until one day you wake up next to a stranger wearing your husband's face. He started working late. I stopped asking why. He stopped touching my hand at dinner. I pretended not to notice. We didn't fight much. Silence became our argument, and silence always wins. I remember the night he left. No yelling, no door slamming. Just a note on the table. "You'll be better off without me." I read it 3 times before I understood he was really gone. And the strangest part? I didn't cry right away. I just stood there, holding that note, thinking, maybe he's right. But he wasn't, because love, once it lives in you, it doesn't leave when the person does. It just changes shape, becomes memory, ache, prayer. After Marcus left, the house didn't echo. It sighed. Every room carried his absence like perfume that never faded. I kept his coffee mug on the counter for months, couldn't bring myself to wash it, as if the stains inside were proof that we had once been real. The first year, I kept busy. Work, church, choir, sleep, repeat. People said I was strong. I let them believe that. But strength ain't the same as healing. Healing, that's messy. It's ugly. It's crying in the shower so nobody hears. It's smiling at the grocery store clerk while your heart's breaking in the parking lot. There was one night, maybe 3 years after he left, when I almost gave up. I sat on the kitchen floor, holding that same note he'd written, "You'll be better off without me." And I whispered back, "Then why don't I feel better?" That night, I prayed for the first time in a long time, not for him to come back, but for God to fill the space he left behind. Little by little, I started to breathe again. I painted my living room yellow. He always hated yellow. I joined a book club, bought myself a birthday cake, even danced once, all by myself in the kitchen. It wasn't joy yet, but it was something close, something alive. And I learned something in those hollow years. Loneliness can either drown you or teach you how to swim. And baby, I was tired of drowning. So I started swimming, even if my arms were weak, even if the water was cold, because surviving wasn't enough anymore. I wanted to live. I remember the first time someone asked me out after Marcus. His name was David. Kind eyes, slow smile, the kind of man who waited before speaking. He came into the bookstore where I worked part-time, bought 2 poetry books, asked if I liked Maya Angelou. I said, "Who doesn't?" He laughed, and something inside me cracked open just a little. We went for coffee the next week. I was nervous, like a teenager in an old woman's skin. He told me about his daughter, his divorce, his mother's peach cobbler recipe. I told him about my choir, my plants, and the way I burn toast every morning. It was simple, safe, sweet. But later that night, when I came home, I sat in the dark and cried because I realized I didn't know how to let anyone in anymore. I'd built walls so high around my heart, even kindness felt like danger. I wanted love, but I was terrified of being hurt again. So when David called the next day, I didn't answer. He texted, "Maybe another time?" I typed, "Sure," then deleted it 3 times. It took me a week to call him back. When I finally did, he said, "I didn't think you would." I told him, "I almost didn't." He just said, "I'm glad you did." We didn't fall in love right away. Maybe we never did, not like before. But we learned how to share small pieces of peace. Coffee, laughter, silence without fear. And that was enough for me then. Because love doesn't always have to roar. Sometimes it just whispers, "You're safe now." That's the thing about second chances. They don't always look like fireworks. Sometimes they're just doors you almost closed, but didn't. It was a Sunday afternoon, hot, still, quiet. I'd just finished watering my plants when I heard a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it, and there he was, Marcus. Older, grayer, but those same eyes. Tired, gentle, familiar. He looked at me like he wasn't sure I'd remember him, as if I ever could forget. He said, "Hey, sunshine." That old nickname hit me right in the chest. I didn't smile, but I didn't close the door either. "What are you doing here, Marcus?" I asked. He took a breath. "I heard you fainted that day, and I never really said goodbye." Goodbye. 10 years too late. He told me his second marriage ended, said he was sorry for the way he left, for the silence, for the hurt. I just stood there, holding my own breath, waiting for anger that didn't come. Instead, what I felt was peace. Soft, quiet peace, like standing in warm rain after a long drought. He said, "You ever think about us?" I said, "Sometimes, mostly when I'm trying not to." We both laughed, just a little, just enough. And then I told him something I never thought I would say. "I forgive you, Marcus." His eyes filled, not with pride, not with relief, just gratitude, real human gratitude. We didn't hug, we didn't promise to stay in touch. We just stood there, 2 people who had once broken each other, now somehow whole again. When he turned to leave, I said, "Take care of yourself." And for the first time, I meant it, not as goodbye, but as release. When the door closed, I felt something shift inside me. The weight I'd carried for 10 years was gone, and I realized forgiveness isn't about fixing the past, it's about freeing your future. After Marcus left, I sat by the window for a long time. The sun was setting, orange and soft, like the world was finally exhaling with me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel heavy. I made a cup of tea, turned on my favorite old record, Etta James, and just listened. I hadn't really listened to music in years, not like that. Every note felt like it was washing me clean. I started doing small things for myself again. Morning walks, fresh flowers on the kitchen table. I even started painting, badly, but joyfully. Every brushstroke felt like I was telling my younger self, "You made it." I used to think healing was some big moment, like lightning or fireworks, but it's not. It's quiet, slow, like learning to breathe again after holding your breath too long. One morning, I looked in the mirror and saw someone new, or maybe someone old I'd forgotten. There were wrinkles, sure, a few gray hairs, but there was also peace. The kind of peace that doesn't come from perfection, but from survival. I whispered to my reflection, "You're still here." And for once, that was enough. My daughter noticed too. She said, "Mama, you look lighter." I smiled. Maybe I finally am. She didn't ask why, and I didn't tell her. Some stories live better in silence, like seeds growing under the soil. These days, I sit on my porch in the evenings and watch the sky change colors. I think about all the versions of myself I've been: the girl who hoped, the woman who hurt, the mother who survived. And I thank them all, because without them, I wouldn't have learned the most important thing. Healing isn't forgetting what broke you, it's remembering who you were before it did. It's funny how pain, once it softens, turns into wisdom. You start seeing patterns in your life, not mistakes, but lessons written in fire. And one day, you wake up and realize maybe your story wasn't meant to stay inside you. Maybe it was meant to light the way for someone else. That's how it started, a small group at the community center. Women, all different ages, all carrying their own quiet battles. I sat there, nervous, clutching my notebook, not sure what to say. Then I just started talking about love that turned to silence, about falling apart and learning to stand again, about the day I said, "I forgive you." And when I looked up, they were crying, not out of pity, but recognition. They'd been there too. After that, they started sharing their stories too, one by one, each voice shaking, then growing stronger. We laughed, we cried, we healed, together. It was like passing around a single flame that refused to die. My daughter came to one of those meetings once. She sat in the back, quiet, watching me speak. Afterwards, she hugged me tight and said, "Mama, I didn't know you were that strong." I smiled. I didn't either, baby, not until I had to be. Now I tell every young woman I meet, don't hide your story. Don't be ashamed of the chapters that hurt. Those are the ones that teach you how to love better, live deeper, forgive faster. We think strength is silence, but real strength, it's telling the truth and surviving it. I used to think my voice didn't matter. Now I know it's the only thing that ever truly did. Because when you share your fire, you help someone else find their light. These days, my mornings are quiet. The kettle whistles, the sun slips through the curtains, and the world feels gentle again. I don't rush anymore. I don't chase what's already gone. I sit on the porch, coffee in hand, and I thank the day for finding me, still here, still breathing. I used to think peace was something you found. Now I know peace is something you build, one honest moment at a time. Every truth told, every tear shed, every forgiveness whispered, that's how you lay the bricks. And one day, you wake up and realize you built a home inside yourself. Sometimes, I still think about the girl I used to be, the one who fell, the one they laughed at. I wish I could hold her, tell her, "Baby, don't be ashamed. One day, they'll freeze, not because you fell, but because you rose." And in a way, I think she hears me now, because when I smile, I feel her smiling back. People ask me sometimes, if you could go back, what would you change? I tell them, nothing. Because every heartbreak carved a space for love to live. Every mistake taught me how to forgive. And every ending showed me where to begin again. My grandson visits now and then. He laughs just like his grandfather used to, wild and free. Sometimes, when he runs into my arms, I remember the title of my life. They laughed when I fell, but froze when they saw who caught me. And now I know it wasn't Marcus who caught me. It was life itself, God, grace, and the woman I became. So if you're listening to this, wherever you are, hear me when I say this. You are not what you lost. You are what you survived. And one day, when the world quiets down, you'll feel it too, that deep, steady peace within. And it will be enough.